Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever felt like you're drowning in problems, as if the weight of the world is crushing your spirit? You try to move forward, but life keeps pushing you back. You wonder, will this struggle ever end? Will I ever be happy again? But let me tell you something, nothing in life is permanent. Not your pain, not your failures, not even your darkest days. Think about the last time you faced something that felt impossible to overcome. At that moment, it seemed like the end of the world. But did it really last forever? No, you survived. You moved forward. You became stronger. And that is exactly why you must stay with me till the end of this speech. Because today I want to remind you of one powerful truth. Don't stress, everything is temporary. Life is a series of phases, constantly changing, evolving, and shifting in ways we often cannot predict. Just like the seasons transition from one to another, so do our experiences, emotions, and circumstances. Nothing stays the same forever, no matter how permanent it may seem in the moment. The joy we feel, the sadness we endure, the victories we celebrate, and the failures we face, all of them are fleeting. When we understand this simple yet profound truth, we begin to see life from a different perspective. Often, when people go through difficult times, they believe their pain will last forever. A broken heart feels like the end of happiness. A failure in life or career feels like a permanent mark of defeat. A financial crisis can seem like an endless burden, but no matter how dark the night may seem, the sun always rises again. Every tough phase, every hardship, every struggle, these are just temporary storms that eventually pass. The mistake many of us make is attaching permanence to things that are only meant to be passing moments. Think about a time when you felt completely hopeless. A moment when you thought you would never recover from the pain or disappointment you were facing. It could have been a major setback in your career, a betrayal by someone you trusted, or a time when life simply felt unfair. In that moment, you probably felt stuck, as if there was no way forward. But as time went by, you healed. You found new opportunities. You met new people. You discovered a strength within yourself that you never knew existed. What once felt like an unbearable burden eventually became just another chapter in your story. Life never stays in one place. It moves forward with or without us. And the more we resist this natural flow, the more we suffer. Stressing over temporary situations only magnifies our pain and prevents us from seeing the bigger picture. When we hold onto our struggles as if they define us, we limit ourselves from growing, from learning, and from embracing new opportunities. Instead of resisting change, we must learn to accept it. We must remind ourselves that nothing lasts forever, not the good times, and certainly not the bad times. The most powerful thing we can do is change our mindset. Instead of seeing hardships as the end, we should view them as transitions. Every challenge we face is leading us somewhere. Every difficult moment is teaching us something valuable. Sometimes we don't understand why certain things happen to us, but with time, everything begins to make sense. What seems like a painful ending is often the beginning of something greater. Look at nature. The trees shed their leaves in autumn, standing bare and exposed during the cold winter. But does that mean they are dead? No, they are merely preparing for the spring, for new life, for fresh beginnings. The same applies to us. There will be moments when we feel stripped of everything we hold dear, moments when we feel like we have lost all hope. But those are just seasons, temporary phases that will soon give way to new growth, new strength, and new possibilities. One of the greatest causes of stress is the belief that things must always go our way. We expect life to be smooth, predictable, and under our control. But life is not meant to be a straight road. It is full of twists, turns, and detours that take us to places we never imagined. Sometimes those detours feel painful. Sometimes they feel unfair. But more often than not, they lead us to exactly where we are meant to be. Think about the people who have achieved great things in life. They did not get there by avoiding hardship. They got there because they endured difficult phases, embraced uncertainty, and trusted that better days were ahead. Every successful person has a story of struggle, failure, and loss. But what set them apart was their ability to keep going, to keep believing, and to keep pushing forward despite the obstacles in their way. When we remind ourselves that everything in life is temporary, we begin to let go of unnecessary worries. We stop stressing over things that won't matter in the long run. We start focusing on what truly matters: our growth, our happiness, and our ability to adapt to change. Holding on to stress does not change our situation, it only makes it harder for us to move forward. The best thing we can do is to trust the process, knowing that no matter how difficult today may seem, tomorrow holds new possibilities. There is a beautiful saying, "This too shall pass." It applies to every situation in life, both the good and the bad. When we are happy, we should cherish every moment because it too will pass. And when we are struggling, we should find comfort in knowing that it won't last forever. Life is constantly changing, and with every challenge we overcome, we become stronger, wiser, and more resilient. At the end of the day, nothing is permanent. The pain you feel today will one day be a memory. The worries that keep you up at night will soon fade away. The heartbreak, the disappointments, the failures, all of them are just temporary stops on the journey of life. The key is to keep moving, keep believing, and keep reminding yourself that brighter days are always ahead. Stress is something that every person experiences at some point in life. It creeps in when things don't go as planned, when uncertainty surrounds us, or when we feel overwhelmed by responsibilities and expectations. It affects our thoughts, our health, and our ability to enjoy life. The mind starts running in endless loops, analyzing situations, creating fears that may never become real, and making problems seem bigger than they actually are. But what if we change the way we look at stress? What if instead of letting it consume us, we learn how to control it? The truth is, stress is not the problem, our reaction to it is. When we face difficulties, our natural instinct is to resist. We want things to be different. We wish that life would be easier. We tell ourselves that we cannot handle the pressure. But in reality, stress is not caused by the situation itself. It is caused by our perception of it. Two people can go through the same challenge, yet one will crumble under the pressure while the other remains calm and focused. The difference lies in how they choose to see their situation. There is a common tendency to exaggerate problems in our minds. A small mistake feels like a huge failure. A temporary setback makes us feel like we are falling behind. A negative comment from someone else can ruin our entire day. This happens because we allow our minds to focus on the negative rather than the solution. We replay worst-case scenarios in our heads, convincing ourselves that things will never get better. But more often than not, the things we stress over are not as serious as we make them out to be. Think about a time when you were worried about something that later turned out to be insignificant. Maybe it was an exam, a job interview, a presentation, or a conflict with someone. At that moment, it felt like a big deal. You probably lost sleep over it, replayed different outcomes in your mind, and let it drain your energy. But looking back now, does it still feel as important? Probably not. This is proof that many of the things we stress over today will not matter in the future. One of the most powerful things we can do is shift our focus from problems to solutions. Instead of dwelling on what went wrong, we should ask ourselves what we can do to improve the situation. Instead of panicking about things we cannot change, we should focus on what we can control. Worrying does not fix anything. Overthinking does not create solutions. What truly helps is taking action, staying calm, and trusting that no matter how difficult things seem, there is always a way forward. Life is unpredictable. There will always be challenges, uncertainties, and moments of doubt. But no matter how tough things get, we must remind ourselves that everything we go through is temporary. The emotions we feel today will change tomorrow. The problems we face now will one day be replaced by new experiences. Nothing in life is permanent, not even stress. Just as dark clouds eventually give way to sunshine, our struggles will also pass. People often say, "I'll be happy when this problem is solved," or "I'll finally relax when things get better." But this way of thinking keeps us trapped in a cycle of stress. If we keep waiting for life to be perfect before we allow ourselves to be at peace, we will always find new reasons to worry. There will always be another challenge, another uncertainty, another unexpected event. The key is not to wait for stress to disappear, but to learn how to manage it while still living fully. Imagine carrying a heavy bag on your shoulders all day. At first, it might not feel too bad, but as time passes, it becomes exhausting. Stress works the same way. The longer we hold on to it, the heavier it feels. That is why it is important to learn how to let go. We must remind ourselves that we do not have to carry every burden alone. We do not have to hold on to every worry, every fear, every negative thought. Letting go does not mean ignoring problems. It means choosing not to let them control us. Youths have immense power. When we fill our minds with stress and negativity, we create unnecessary suffering. But when we choose to focus on solutions, gratitude, and resilience, we gain control over our emotions. We start to realize that we are capable of handling more than we think. Strength does not come from avoiding difficulties. It comes from facing them with a clear mind and an open heart. There are simple yet effective ways to reduce stress. Taking deep breaths, stepping away from a stressful situation for a while, spending time in nature, talking to a trusted friend, and practicing gratitude can make a significant difference. When we shift our focus to what we have rather than what we lack, we begin to see life from a new perspective. Even in difficult times, there are always things to be grateful for: health, family, opportunities, and the ability to keep moving forward. Another powerful way to reduce stress is to remind ourselves that we are not alone. Everyone experiences struggles, doubts, and fears. No one has a perfect life, no matter how it may seem on the surface. The people who inspire us the most, the ones who have achieved great things, have all faced challenges. But they chose not to let stress define them. They refused to be defeated by their fears. They kept going even when things felt uncertain. We must do the same. Life is not meant to be lived in a constant state of worry. We were not born to stress over every little thing. We were born to learn, to grow, to experience both highs and lows, and to become stronger through our struggles. Stress is nothing more than a temporary reaction to a situation. It does not define us. It does not control our future. And most importantly, it is something we have the power to overcome. Life is a journey filled with highs and lows, moments of joy and sorrow, success and failure. Every one of us has faced moments where we felt like giving up, times when everything seemed to be falling apart. Stress and worry can weigh us down, making even the smallest challenges feel insurmountable. But the truth is, nothing lasts forever. The pain, the hardships, the sleepless nights, everything that troubles us today will eventually pass. Just as the seasons change, so do the circumstances of life. The key is to remind ourselves that no matter how difficult things seem right now, they're only temporary. We often believe that stress is an inevitable part of life, something we have no control over. But in reality, stress is not created by the situation itself. It is created by how we react to it. The same situation that makes one person break down might make another person stronger. The difference lies in the mindset. When we face difficulties, we tend to focus on what is going wrong, on what we don't have, on the worst possible outcomes. This only makes the stress grow stronger, feeding our fears and making us feel powerless. But what if we shifted our perspective? What if instead of seeing stress as something that controls us, we saw it as something we have the power to manage? Think about a time in your life when you were overwhelmed by stress, when it felt like things would never get better. Maybe it was a financial crisis, a health issue, a broken relationship, or a career setback. At that moment, it felt like the end of the world. You might have thought you would never recover from it. But look at yourself now. You survived. You moved forward. You learned lessons. And if you are still carrying the weight of past stress, let this be a reminder that you have overcome difficulties before, and you can do it again. One of the biggest reasons stress takes control of our lives is that we resist change. We want things to go according to our plans. We want stability. We want certainty. But life does not work that way. Change is inevitable. No matter how much we try to hold on to certain things, some situations are meant to evolve. The people we meet, the jobs we do, the places we live, everything is in a constant state of change. The more we resist this reality, the more stress we create for ourselves. Instead of fearing change, we must learn to embrace it. Every change, even the difficult ones, brings with it new opportunities, new perspectives, and new strengths we never knew we had. We also need to stop giving so much power to our thoughts. The mind is a storyteller. It takes small problems and turns them into disasters. It makes us believe that we are not capable, that we are alone, that things will never get better. But the truth is, thoughts are not always facts. Just because we think something does not mean it is true. Most of the worries we have are exaggerated by our minds. If we took a step back and observed our thoughts without attaching emotions to them, we would see that many of them are unnecessary. We need to remind ourselves that just because we feel overwhelmed now does not mean we will feel this way forever. Another reason stress becomes overwhelming is that we take life too seriously. We worry about what people think of us. We stress over things that are beyond our control. We place so much pressure on ourselves to be perfect, to achieve more, to prove ourselves. But at the end of the day, life is not about being perfect. It is about living, about experiencing, about learning. If we could step outside our worries for a moment and see life from a broader perspective, we would realize that many of the things we stress about will not even matter in the long run. Imagine yourself 5 years from now. Will the things that are causing you stress today still be as significant? Probably not. The failures you are afraid of, the mistakes you keep replaying in your mind, the opinions of others, none of these will have the power to define your future unless you let them. What truly matters is how you choose to move forward, how you choose to grow from every challenge, and how you choose to let go of what no longer serves you. One of the most effective ways to reduce stress is to focus on the present moment. Most of our stress comes from either worrying about the future or regretting the past. But the present moment is where life happens. When we bring our focus to what we can do right now, instead of stressing about what might happen later, we take back control. We realize that we have more power over our lives than we think. Another powerful tool against stress is gratitude. It is easy to focus on what is missing, on what is wrong, on what is uncertain. But if we take a moment to appreciate what we have, we shift our energy. Even in the most difficult times, there is always something to be grateful for: our health, the people who support us, the lessons we are learning, the small joys of everyday life. Gratitude reminds us that life is not just about the struggles, but also about the beauty that exists alongside them. We must also remind ourselves that we are not alone. Everyone experiences stress. Everyone faces moments of doubt. Even the most successful people, the ones we look up to, have gone through struggles. The difference is they did not let those struggles define them. They did not let stress stop them from moving forward. They learned to navigate through difficult times with resilience, with patience, and with the understanding that nothing lasts forever. There is strength in knowing that no matter what we are going through, we have the power to rise above it. Stress is temporary. The feelings of being overwhelmed, the doubts, the fears, they will all pass. What matters is how we choose to respond to them. Will we let stress control us, or will we take control of our mindset? Will we let our worries hold us back, or will we push forward with courage and faith? Have you ever noticed how we often let our emotions control us? When something goes wrong, when life throws unexpected challenges our way, we allow stress, anxiety, and fear to take over. Our hearts race, our thoughts spiral, and suddenly the problem feels bigger than it actually is. But have we ever stopped to ask ourselves, is this reaction truly helping us? Is the stress we feel solving anything? Or is it only making things worse? When we allow stress to consume us, we are giving power to something external, something that in most cases is beyond our control. A delayed promotion, a misunderstanding with a friend, an uncertain future. These things happen to everyone. But how we react to them is what determines whether we stay stuck in frustration or move forward with strength. Most of us live as if we are constantly in battle with life, resisting everything that doesn't go according to our plans. But life is not something to fight against, it is something to flow with. And the moment we understand this, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering. Think about water. When it encounters an obstacle, it does not resist, it finds a way around it. If a rock is in its path, it does not waste energy fighting the rock, it flows around it, adapting, continuing forward. But when we face obstacles, we often do the opposite. We resist, we fight, we stress. And in doing so, we make the challenge harder than it needs to be. We convince ourselves that if things don't happen the way we expected, then everything is ruined. But is that really true? Or is it simply a story our mind is telling us? Many of the things that stress us are not as significant as they seem in the moment. Have you ever looked back on a stressful situation from years ago and realized that it wasn't as bad as you thought? The problem got solved, life moved on, and you barely even think about it now. This is proof that stress distorts reality. It makes small problems feel like disasters. It makes temporary situations feel permanent. But if we step back, if we take a breath and observe things with a clear mind, we realize that nothing is as overwhelming as it first appears. We must also understand that stress is fueled by the stories we tell ourselves. When we fail at something, we don't just experience failure, we start believing that we are failures. When someone lets us down, we don't just feel disappointed, we tell ourselves that we are unworthy of love and respect. These stories become the lens through which we see the world, and they add unnecessary weight to our struggles. But the truth is, a failure is just a failure. A disappointment is just a disappointment. They do not define who we are unless we let them. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack filled with unnecessary things you no longer need but refuse to let go of. That is what we do when we carry stress that no longer serves us. We hold on to past mistakes, old regrets, and unnecessary worries, making our journey through life harder than it needs to be. But what if we could put the backpack down? What if we could lighten the load? The first step is awareness, recognizing when we are holding on to things that are no longer relevant. The second step is a choice to let go. Letting go does not mean giving up. It does not mean ignoring our responsibilities. It simply means understanding that we do not have to carry stress with us everywhere we go. It means realizing that we can approach challenges with a calm and open mind instead of reacting with fear and anxiety. When we learn to do this, life becomes lighter. We no longer feel trapped by circumstances. We begin to see solutions where we once saw only problems. Another powerful realization is that every challenge we face is temporary. No storm lasts forever. No difficult phase continues endlessly. The pain, the confusion, the uncertainty, all of it will pass. But while we are in the middle of it, it is easy to forget this truth. We convince ourselves that we will always feel this way, that things will never change. But that is never the case. Think about the hardest times in your life. No matter how painful they were, they eventually passed. And you emerge stronger, wiser, more resilient. We must also stop waiting for the perfect moment to be happy. Many of us believe that once we solve all our problems, we will finally find peace. But life does not work that way. There will always be challenges. There will always be something uncertain, something unfinished. If we wait for the perfect moment, we will wait forever. True peace does not come from having a problem-free life. It comes from learning to remain calm and hopeful even in the middle of uncertainty. One way to cultivate this peace is through gratitude. Stress thrives on what we lack, what we don't have, what is going wrong. But gratitude shifts our focus to what we do have. No matter how difficult life gets, there is always something to be grateful for. Our health, the people who love us, the small joys of each day, these are the things that truly matter. And when we take a moment to appreciate them, stress loses its grip on us. Another way to reduce stress is to take care of ourselves, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. We must learn to give ourselves the same kindness and understanding that we give to others. We must remind ourselves that we are human, that we are allowed to have bad days, that we are allowed to struggle. The key is to not let those struggles define us. We must remember that we are stronger than we think. Every challenge we face is an opportunity to grow. Every setback is a lesson. And no matter how difficult the journey may seem, we have the power to overcome it. Stress is temporary. Fear is temporary. What truly lasts is the strength we gain from every experience. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where your mind refuses to stay silent? Where the thoughts keep coming, one after another, piling up, creating stories, making problems seem bigger than they actually are. It is in those moments that stress takes over. It convinces us that things are worse than they truly are. It makes temporary setbacks feel like permanent failures. But what if I told you that everything you are going through right now, every challenge, every pain, every uncertainty is temporary? What if I told you that in a few months, or even a few years, what is consuming your thoughts today will no longer matter? We often let stress dictate the quality of our lives. We allow it to control our emotions, influence our decisions, and steal our happiness. But if we truly understand that nothing in life stays the same forever, we would not hold on so tightly to our worries. The problems that seem so overwhelming today will fade into the past. The heartbreak that feels unbearable will become a distant memory. The uncertainty that keeps you up at night will eventually be replaced by clarity. But in the moment, when we are in the middle of the storm, we forget this truth. We convince ourselves that our suffering is endless. We let fear cloud our perspective. But no storm lasts forever, and neither does stress. The human mind is powerful, but it is also unreliable. It magnifies fears, exaggerates problems, and creates unnecessary suffering. Most of the things we stress about never even happen. How many times have you lost sleep over a situation that in the end worked out fine? How many times have you allowed stress to take away your peace over something that later seemed insignificant? This is proof that our fears are not always real. They are often just illusions created by our own minds. And if we learn to control our thoughts, we can control our stress. One of the biggest reasons we experience stress is because we resist change. We want life to go exactly as we plan. We want things to happen on our timeline in the way we expect. And when they don't, we panic. We question everything. We feel like we are losing control. But life is not meant to be controlled. It is meant to be experienced. And change is not our enemy. It is our greatest teacher. Every time something does not go according to plan, it is an opportunity to grow. It is a reminder that we are not in control of everything, and that is okay. Sometimes what we see as a setback is actually a redirection to something better. But we can only see that truth if we stop resisting and start trusting the process. Another source of stress is comparison. We compare our lives to those of others and convince ourselves that we are falling behind. We see people achieving things we want, and instead of feeling inspired, we feel inadequate. But comparison is a lie. It is based on an incomplete picture. We see people's successes, but we don't see their struggles. We see their happiness, but we don't see their pain. And when we compare our lives to theirs, we are comparing our behind the scenes to their highlight reel. This only leads to stress, anxiety, and self-doubt. But when we stop comparing, we start living. We start appreciating our own journey. We start focusing on our own growth instead of worrying about what everyone else is doing. One of the most powerful ways to reduce stress is to stay present. Stress is almost always about the past or the future, what has already happened or what might happen next. But the present moment is where life actually happens. Right now, in this very moment, you are safe. You are breathing. You are alive. And that is enough. When we focus too much on the past, we carry unnecessary weight. We replay mistakes, regret decisions, and hold on to things we cannot change. And when we focus too much on the future, we create unnecessary fear. We worry about things that have not even happened yet. But if we learn to be present, to truly be here, now we free ourselves from both past regrets and future anxieties. Another thing we must understand is that stress often comes from trying to please everyone. We exhaust ourselves trying to meet expectations, trying to be liked, trying to prove our worth. But the truth is, no matter what you do, not everyone will agree with you. Not everyone will like you. And that is okay. You are not here to live up to someone else's expectations. You are here to live your own life. The moment you stop seeking approval from others is the moment you take back control of your happiness. And when you let go of the need to be perfect in the eyes of others, you let go of unnecessary stress. Taking care of yourself is also essential in managing stress. We spend so much time taking care of responsibilities of other people, of deadlines and obligations, that we forget to take care of ourselves. But how can we expect to be strong when we are running on empty? How can we expect to handle stress when we are exhausted, both physically and emotionally? Taking care of yourself is not selfish, it is necessary. It means setting boundaries, saying no when you need to, resting when you are tired, and doing things that bring you joy. It means treating yourself with the same kindness you give to others. Another important thing to remember is that you are stronger than your stress. You have been through difficult times before, and you survived. You have faced challenges that once seemed impossible, and yet here you are, still standing. That is proof of your strength. That is proof that stress does not define you. The next time you feel overwhelmed, remind yourself of everything you have already overcome. Remind yourself that this moment is just one chapter in your story, not the whole book. And above all, trust that everything will work out in the end. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually. Life has a way of bringing us exactly what we need, even when we don't realize it at the time. The struggles you face today are shaping you into the person you are meant to become. The challenges you overcome are preparing you for something greater. Stress may try to convince you that things are falling apart, but often they are actually falling into place.
Have you ever noticed how stress has a way of consuming our thoughts? It takes hold of our minds, making us believe that the struggles we face today will last forever. It convinces us that we are stuck, that there is no way out, that the weight on our shoulders will never lift. But if we take a step back, if we pause for just a moment, we begin to realize a profound truth. Nothing in life is permanent. Everything we experience, whether good or bad, is temporary. We live in a world where we are constantly bombarded with expectations, deadlines, responsibilities, and uncertainties. Every day, there is something new to worry about. And because we are so focused on the stress of today, we forget that life is always changing. What seems overwhelming right now will not feel the same way in a few months or years. The problems that keep us up at night, the pain that feels unbearable, the situations that seem impossible to overcome, all of it will eventually pass. But in the moment, we convince ourselves that our suffering is permanent. We forget that time has the power to heal, to transform, and to bring clarity. Think about the struggles you faced in the past, the moments that seemed impossible to get through. At the time, it felt like the end of the world, but here you are, still standing, still breathing, still moving forward. The pain you thought would never fade is now just a memory. The stress that once consumed you has lost its power. This is proof that nothing lasts forever. Just as the seasons change, so do the circumstances of our lives. Yet, we often allow stress to take control. We let it dictate our emotions, steal our joy, and cloud our perspective. We worry about things we cannot change, we stress over things that may never happen, and we waste precious moments consumed by fear. But when we remind ourselves that everything is temporary, we begin to loosen our grip. We stop letting stress dictate our happiness. We stop allowing temporary struggles to define our entire lives. One of the reasons we struggle with stress is because we resist uncertainty. We want everything to be predictable, to go exactly as planned, to unfold in the way we expect, but life does not work that way. Life is full of twists and turns, unexpected detours and sudden changes, and the more we resist, the more we suffer. But what if, instead of resisting, we started embracing uncertainty? What if instead of fearing change, we trusted that it is leading us to something better? Some of the most beautiful moments in life come from the things we never planned, the opportunities we never expected, the people we never imagined meeting, the lessons we never thought we would learn. When we let go of our need to control everything, we open ourselves up to new possibilities. We begin to trust that even when things don't go our way, they are still happening for a reason, and when we truly believe that, stress begins to lose its power over us. Another reason we experience stress is because we hold on too tightly to the past. We replay old mistakes. We dwell on things we cannot change. We carry burdens that no longer serve us, but the past is done. It cannot be rewritten no matter how much we think about it. The only thing we have control over is this moment right now. When we let go of the past, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering. We allow ourselves to move forward without carrying the weight of yesterday. The same is true for the future. We spend so much time worrying about what might happen, fearing the unknown, creating worst-case scenarios in our minds, but the future has not happened yet. And no amount of stress will change what is to come. The only thing stress does is steal our present moment. It takes away our peace today for something that may never even happen tomorrow. But when we choose to focus on the now, we take back our power. We remind ourselves that we are strong enough to handle whatever comes our way, whenever it comes. We also need to understand that our thoughts shape our reality. When we constantly think about stress, we attract more of it into our lives. When we focus on problems, they seem bigger than they actually are. But when we shift our perspective, when we remind ourselves that challenges are temporary, we start to feel a sense of relief. We realize that we have the power to choose how we respond. We may not be able to control every situation, but we can control how we react to it, and that makes all the difference. One of the most powerful ways to reduce stress is to practice gratitude. When we are caught up in worry, it is easy to forget all the good that exists in our lives. But when we take a moment to appreciate what we have, our perspective shifts. We start to see that even in difficult times, there is still beauty. There are still moments of joy, still reasons to smile, still people who love us. Gratitude reminds us that no matter how hard life gets, there is always something to be thankful for. Another important lesson is learning to be kind to ourselves. We are often our own worst critics, expecting perfection, blaming ourselves for things beyond our control, pushing ourselves to the point of exhaustion. But stress does not define our worth. Our struggles do not make us weak. We are human, and it is okay to feel overwhelmed sometimes. But we must also remember to be gentle with ourselves, to rest when we need to speak to ourselves with the same kindness we offer others. Taking care of our minds and bodies is also essential in managing stress. When we neglect ourselves, stress becomes even harder to handle. But when we prioritize self-care, everything starts to feel lighter, whether it is taking a walk, listening to music, spending time with loved ones, or simply breathing deeply. These small acts of self-care can make a big difference. They remind us that we are in control of our well-being, even when everything else feels chaotic. And perhaps the most important thing to remember is that we are never alone. When we are stressed, we often isolate ourselves, believing that no one understands what we are going through. But the truth is, everyone faces challenges. Everyone experiences moments of doubt, fear, and uncertainty. And sometimes, just knowing that we are not alone is enough to give us strength. Reaching out, talking to someone, sharing our struggles, it can make all the difference, because when we open up, we realize that we do not have to carry our burdens alone.